The Reformed Gamers is brought to you 100% independent and ad-free thanks to our dear patrons over on patreon.com/reformedgamers to get yourself sweet, sweet perks such as uncut early access to the episodes, special episodes of the podcast, and more. Head on over to patreon.com/reformedgamers and consider lending support and joining the herd. Without further ado, let's hop into the show.
Hello and welcome, dear listeners, to episode 173 of the Reformed Gamers, the show all about theology, video games, Halo, and anything else that we can think of. I'm your Spartan 117 host, Logan.
And I'm his co-host, Adam.
Whoa, Adam. Dude, you sound so loud. Not like loud is bad, but like, I don't know. I guess different is a better word.
Coming in crystal clear when I'm not using my Apple headphones. I did it as long as I could, and then Skinner's like, bro, what's up with your audio? And I'm like, yeah, I was waiting for you guys to say something. But Jesse hooked me up with that sweet mic, but all of a sudden it's not working. So I just was like, we just got to get by, you know. I'm just trying to get through COVID with my Apple headphones. And Skinner's like, bro, you got to do something different. And I'm like, what's gain? And he's like, oh boy. So busting out the old, blue, what is it? Blue Yeti,
Blue Snowball,
bringing it back. Can't be any worse than my Apple headphones, I think. So we'll see how this goes. Let me know, dear listeners.
We'll see how it goes. Dear listeners, I want to let you guys in on a secret. I don't know if we've ever done this on the podcast before, because I don't think we've ever released an episode on one of our birthdays before. But today is my birthday.
Is that birthday? Happy birthday.
Turning the big 3-1. I feel old and decrepit, which is all sorts of fun.
I just turned 34 and I'm like, what is happening? How old am I?
Man. It's just like your body starts like aching in places that never ached before, and you're making like grunt or like coughing noises that you never made before. And then you're just like, what is life?
Dude, it's just weird saying
now?
That we're in our 30s. Like, to say I'm 34 is like, I remember when I was like 18, 20 being like 34, man, it feels like forever. Now that I'm here, I'm like, I don't feel like I'm 34, but I am. And I'm like, I got kids and wives and 9-to-5s. You know, I am married to the games with our boys, but man, it's wild. It is crazy to think how old I am. How old you are now. I mean, you're 31.
I know I'm old. But hey, dude, we're 30, flirty, and thriving, right? Am I right?
You know what? I do think I'm going to be that guy that's 60 years old playing video games. I'm not going to stop. I refuse. Mm-hmm. I want to be that guy whose grandpa whooping on his great grandkids in video games. Like, Lord, let it be said. Let it be done. I want to be that old dude that still plays games. We'll see if it happens, but I'm going to try my best to be that man.
Yep. That's how I'm going to be. When the games in the future have like, I don't know, just really like big time baby mode. It's just like cakewalk. And kids are complaining about how hard it is. Like, back in my day, I played Dark Souls and beat all of them. It's funny, as I'll sound like one of the characters from the game. So, I mean, it'll be awesome. It'll be awesome. But anyway, dear listeners, let's go ahead, get into the show. So glad you guys are here. We're going to be talking about the Xbox Game Showcase here. What's funny is I was streaming recently, and I actually got several questions from people in chat asking if we were covering this. So I'm like, whoa. First of all, thank you for listening to the podcast. Second of all, yeah, we'll talk about it if you guys want.
We got opinions.
XCOM, give it to, if you're a patron, you heard all the hot takes, and you guys are going to get some. Trust me, my ears are still smoldering a little bit from Adam's fire. But let's get into some housekeeping before we get into the show. New content is on the website. Of course, you guys, if you guys haven't checked out Twitter or Facebook, or you're not in the Facebook group or any stuff like that, you're on an island and you're secluded from the TRG stuff, and this is the only way you hear about the new stuff we're putting up on the website. Ghost of Tsushima review is up on the website. Our boy Micah put that up there, and it's a really good review. Not gonna lie, screenshots he took, super good. Got me thinking maybe I need to start playing it, but well, we'll get into what I've been playing a little bit later on. We also put 2 new articles up on Dear Thoughts. It's basically just we get community thoughts on different games. And so we put articles up covering Ghost of Tsushima and Paper Mario. Got people from the community giving their thoughts, their mini reviews, so to speak, of those games. And of course, Wesley's knocking out of the park with his retrospectives. Of course, the Summer of Persona series is up there covering Persona 3, 4, and 5. So if you haven't had a chance to check those out, link will be in your show notes to head over to the website that has a new simplified menu bar to help you find the different articles that you're looking for much faster and a lot easier so you guys can enjoy that. Also, big news. The episodes of our podcast are now finally on YouTube. So for the longest time, our episodes just stopped at episode 154. And so we are fixing that. By the time this episode goes out to public feeds, all of our missing episodes, at least from 154 and up, or I guess 155 and up to current, will be available on the website as well. So if you have some friends that are wanting to check out the show, you can send out those individual episodes to share with your friends, family, grandmothers, and of course, anybody and everybody at Chick-fil-A. You can also join our Discord server. The link will be in your show notes to join that. We'd love to have you over there. There's a lot of different channels in there that will help you out if you're looking to build a PC, get help with your streaming, or, I don't know, sell turnips on Animal Crossing, because there are people that still do that. You can also follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/TheoloGan. As of the time of this recording, I checked before we recorded, guys, we are closing in on 400 followers, which is mind-blowing to me. So go follow me over there. We're about 7 followers away. And the host of Retro Rerun Podcast, Francisco, he is kind of like my private emote guy. I don't know if he's really like a private emote guy because he makes emotes for other people.
It just went public if it was private.
Yeah. He's been getting work, though, which is good because he does good work. He is making some new sub badges for those of you that are subbed to the channel. So you guys will see trophies next to your name, which are hinting at the new direction of the channel, where I'll just tell you right now, starting September, we're going to be playing games exclusively to get the platinum trophies for them. So we're going to play some really terrible games and some really brutal games and see if I can get those platinum trophies. It's really just a ploy to help me stay accountable to this 20 platinums in 2020 business, because if I don't do it any other way, I'm going to be stuck at 12 for the rest of the year, and we can't have that. Twitch.tv/TheoloGan, though. Every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you guys can catch me there. If you guys like what we do here on the podcast, you guys can go over to patreon.com and lend your support there financially, get some perks such as early access to all of our episodes, behind the scenes, and more. So you guys can check that out on patreon.com. But if you can't support us financially, we totally get it. You can support the show by reviewing the podcast on your podcast app of choice, iTunes, Overcast, Podchaser, whichever one it is. Leave a rating and review of the show and help us defeat Joel Osteen on the charts. But without further ado, let's get into the show. Hello and welcome to the Reformed Gamers. I'd like to start off the things. We just like to start the show off with a little bit of what have we been playing. Adam, you handsome bearded samurai, what have you been getting into?
Not as much as I'd like to be getting into, but so is life. You know, we got business opening up. I mean, the church has been open, but things are really starting to ramp up for us. I mean, even in the midst of the craziness that is COVID, we got a soccer clinic going on this week.
Oh, there you go.
We're one of the few churches. I mean, everybody's doing VBS, but we're trying to do it in person. So we're trying that out. Coming up in a few weeks, we got a couple outreaches. So all that to say, life is busy, to throw along in with the 4-month-old and the 2-year-old who is crazy. But I'm still getting some gaming in. So last time recorded, I had finished Last of Us Part 2, and I was waiting for Ghost of Tsushima. And so I've got Ghost of Tsushima. I've played maybe 4 or 5 hours probably. I'm not as far as I'd like to have been by now, honestly. I mean, stinking Micah's out there beating it already, and I'm like, bro, no chill. Like, you teach me, senpai. Like, the way that guy knocks out games, I mean, he's got it figured out. But I'm not too far into that, but it's a very fun game. I'm realizing the more I've been thinking about it more than I've got to play it lately. But I'm like, I'm not really playing it right, I don't think. I'm trying to like just hack and slash in the combat, but I think I've got to play more like a samurai. You know, wait for them to act, deflect, dodge. Instead, I'm just going in there trying to like knock them back and just overpower them. And I think I'm making the game a lot harder on myself than I have to. So I'm like excited for the next time I get to play it because I'm like, I'm going to try some new just strategy out for the gameplay. But it's good. I mean, it's one of those games where you really want to do everything. So I'm like doing the side quests. I'm chasing these foxes all over the place. They'll say, oh, there's a village over here to like kind of take over or whatever. So I'm doing all that. It's like for even being 4 to 5 hours, I've only feel like I've done 1 or 2 story missions because they have these like character quests basically. And those are like, there's one that's like nine quests in one character quest. So you have a couple of those at least that I've opened up so far. So it really is. It's a lot of fun. It looks great. It is very much a change of pace from Last of Us. And I mean, it's not a perfect game. There's some things that it could patch in, like the no lock, like you can't lock onto somebody. Like that's frustrating sometimes. I'm trying to attack one person, all of a sudden I'm attacking someone else. So some of those things are kind of annoying, but it really is. It's a lot of fun. I'm really excited to play more of it. I just haven't got the time that I've wanted to. So over the next month, what is our next? This is almost a whole nother episode of like, we need to look at the upcoming games for this year and really talk about the ones that we're looking forward to. Cause I can think of, Tony Hawk, Knights of Amalur, what do they call it? The Re-Reckoning. So I'm excited about those 2. I don't think I'm going to play Cyberpunk until, probably next gen, as long as I can get one of those. Miles Morales. Some of those are towards the end of the year. But I don't have a ton other than Tony Hawk and Re-Reckoning that I'm like really excited about until November when the new systems come out. I'm sure there's some other ones that might pop up. So I'm really excited to see what other games I'm going to get to play in that time frame. Granted, I can beat Ghost of Tsushima in the next month or so, but yeah. So that's been the little bit I've got to play has been Ghost, and I'm really excited to get to play more soon.
Yeah, I keep hearing so much about Ghost, and I bought it when all the reviews started coming out and talking about how good the game was. I'm like, crap. All right, I'll go ahead and play it, but I only put an hour into it, so I can't really say anything apart from the Kurosawa mode is legit. Love the way it looks. I like the combat, but I agree that the no lock-on thing was like really jarring to me at first because, the game I have been playing the most of has been Dark Souls Remastered, which has a lock-on. And so it was kind of a bit of a jarring experience going from that game to Ghost for the short hour that I played it. But that's what I have been playing here recently quite a bit has been Dark Souls Remastered. I was just kind of looking at the game and just thinking about it and being like, man, I really want to finish the game. And a couple of my friends who stream had been playing through it at the time. And I was like, man, I really want to play through this game and I really want to beat it. Like I hate that I put however many hours into it before and gave up on it and then just quit. Like I want to finish the game really bad. And so I'm about, I think, what does it say on Steam? It's like 15 hours or something like that in Dark Souls Remastered. Yeah, 15. And so I'm playing through that. I started up a pyromancer, which basically just means I'm a fancy knight that can shoot fire out of his hands. And it's good. I don't know what it is, if it's just because I've played through a lot of these sections so many times that I just remember where a lot of things are. But I find myself not getting as frustrated with the game as I did before. It's just I have a lot more patience with the game now, I guess, which is weird because I don't, especially at this point in my life, the super old age of 31, I don't like games that are really difficult because I just feel like I'm wasting my time after a while. But it's just things are just clicking into place now for me a lot more. And maybe that's because I have more friends playing it and we can just kind of I can get information from them and feedback and advice. But I'm having a blast with it now. For those that have played the game and are curious where I'm at, I just got into Sen's Fortress, which is a nightmare of a place to go through, which is pretty much most of the game.
Yeah, but that's what I was thinking. I'm like, it all sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, but no, so I that's where I'm at currently. I'm trying to figure out where to go within that fortress because I know I've gotten further than this in my last playthrough. I got all the way to the place that comes after that, which is called Anor Londo. Really random names. But so I'm trying to remember where it is, like which way I went before and how I got there. But I'm enjoying it. Like, I don't know what it is about this particular playthrough, but things are just clicking into place and I'm just really enjoying it. I think maybe it's because I'm trying to take things one thing at a time. I'm not trying to really what's called min-maxing. It's like what you do in Fire Emblem, how like or some kind of strategy game, you try to over-level your characters so that way you breeze through the rest of the game. But this one, I'm just like, all right, I got killed in one hit here. I'm not going to go there for a while. I'm going to come back a little bit later. And I think really a lot of that is owed to Xenoblade Chronicles forcing me to slow down and take games at a better pace than this here. And so I'm enjoying it. But
you liked Code Vein a lot, right? Did you get the platinum for that?
I did get the platinum for Code Vein.
It's been on sale for like 15 and I've been tempted, but I'm afraid it's going to be like Bloodborne where I'm just like, ugh, this is brutal.
Yeah.
And get frustrated. What do you think?
So like I said with Code Vein before, one of the reasons why it became one of my favorite games of, 2019, was because it's the most accessible Soulsborne game within the genre, because it can be difficult like those other games if you want them to be, but it can also be, I don't want to say like a walk through the park, but it gives you an AI companion that you can bring along with you, and it makes the game easier for you if you want it to be easier. So I played it through with an AI companion, and I rarely called in other players for help, like what I would do in Dark Souls. So I mean, dude, for $15, I think it's worth a try. You might get really into it.
It might be one of those games again. Once I get done with Go, see where the landscape is. I'm sure. Yeah. My thought was, if this game is 15 now, it's going to be 15 again in the future.
Yeah.
So I don't have to rush to get it, but it's one I've heard you talk so much good about that. I think I'd like to check it out at some point, but we're just going to see how life plays out.
Yeah, definitely. And especially since they added in some free DLC with like new dungeons and things like that. I mean, it's just, there's a lot of value there, a lot of gameplay in there, especially coming from someone who put, I think, did I put 70 hours into it? Sounds about right. But I also went for the platinum because I'm a psychopath. Anyway, the last game. Do what?
Plat.
Plat. That's what we got to do. Hey, 20 plats in 2020. That's what I do. The last game that I'll talk about that I've been putting a lot of time into recently has been Destiny 2, which...
Yeah.
Now, come on now. I think I mentioned that a little bit on the last episode with Shadeless, that I've been getting into that a little bit. And it's just because I've been playing it more on PC, where it's just, it just runs way better than it does on PS4. The load times are not anywhere near as long as what they are on PS4. I don't know what it is about the PS4 version that it just runs so slow and just poor, in my opinion. But been running that, playing through that, getting into some of the new content that they put in, some of the new strikes, trying out some of the game modes that were there before, like Gambit Prime, which is like a you get 4 people on your team, you go against a wave of computer enemies, and then you have another team that you're going against as well that invade your area, and it's a whole thing. It's fun, but Gambit Prime is like the I guess competitive version of the original Gambit game mode. And anyway, all I have to say, I'm having a blast getting back into it. It's interesting how every time I kind of step away from this game for a couple of months and then come back, I'm like, oh yeah, this is why I really like this game, because the gameplay is really good. The controls are fantastic. The lore, I have no idea what's going on, but it sounds cool and it's well voice acted. And it just looks cool. Like all the ships and stuff, and the armor continues to just get better and better. And so just playing that with friends too, like new people in the community, has been, honestly, it's been a blast. And I'm looking forward to Beyond Light that's coming out in November, and going to be getting to try out that new content with some other dear listeners. So dear listeners, if you're playing Destiny 2 on PC or PS4, hit us up on Twitter at TRG Podcast and let me know. And we'll try to run some strikes together, or maybe hop into the Crucible and defeat the almighty 7th graders, because they are very powerful, very strong in that game, but we can defeat them if we stand together. But yeah, I'm enjoying it, man. It just is what it is, I guess. I've fallen back into the Destiny 2 grind. I should be playing other games like The Last of Us Part 2 and Ghost of Tsushima and maybe Paper Mario, but here I am playing Dark Souls and Destiny 2, which is so random. But yeah. Anyway, let's switch over to a little bit of what have we been reading, Adam, man. What have you been getting into?
Yeah, been reading a little bit more. Started a new commentary on the book of Colossians by Warren Wiersbe, so kind of getting into that for my Devo. Yeah, I've got most of his commentary sets digitally for like free through David C. Cook's website. So
Nice.
Jumping into one of those, kind of shifting off the Christ-centered exposition series that I usually use. So that's been good, and I'm going to be getting some opportunities. Our pastor's going on basically a 3 month. We're not calling it a sabbatical, but it's a 3 week or 3 month break. So I'm going to get to preach basically a month straight through August on First John, along with one of our other pastors. So been studying a lot on First John, and really I'm preaching on abiding in Christ this Sunday, so I'm like super excited about that. Like my study this morning was awesome. I'm really excited. So that's been good, just studying, reading there. But the book I've been reading, and so stick with me because I know you probably won't care for this book. But it's called you may have heard the book. It's from Austin Channing Brown. It's I'm Still Here, Black Dignity in a World Made for Whiteness. And it's really it's an autobiography. It's kind of her telling her story. It's not like maybe some of the other books that are it's not really like the Jamar Tisby book I read where they're kind of examining Christianity and stuff like that. It's really her just sharing her story growing up in a lot of white spaces. And so it's been, I've really enjoyed it. Enjoyed's maybe not the right word. It's been good to hear another perspective, honestly. It's a perspective that is definitely not mine, being a white person growing up in predominantly white areas. So just kind of listening to her story and taking what I can take from it. So I've got, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 chapters left. And yeah, if you're looking for a book that's pretty fair and just another perspective, especially with everything going on in culture, I don't think it's a bad one to check out compared to maybe some of the other books that would that maybe look at Christian culture and woke, all this other stuff. But yeah, I would say it's called I'm Still Here, Black Dignity in a World Made for Whiteness by Austin Channing Brown. It's not been that bad, so that's what I've been reading.
Right on. Well, I, in just full transparency, and I think if you, for those of you dear listeners, would ask really anybody in ministry about about serving during this time of COVID and everything else, it's a lot like that. Gosh, I forgot what show the meme is from, but it's like an obstacle course where someone's trying to navigate these shifting bars that are going up and down and they keep getting pummeled and knocked back and things like that. That has been exactly what it's been like, at least for me, to do ministry during this time, especially youth ministry, and changing it up drastically to be different than what it normally is in the summer. And between that and the usual stuff that you deal with in terms of content creation online, paying a little too close attention to numbers, really it's stuff that we talked about in the last episode, stuff that you shouldn't pay close attention to because it'll drive you nuts. I have been noticing that my depression has gotten way worse during this time. And because of that, I've noticed that I've spent less time in both prayer and reading scripture. And so because of that, I felt myself withering in a lot of ways, just both mentally, spiritually. And I kind of was talking to my wife about this, and she was like, she's really good about this. Anytime I complain about something, she always goes, "Have you prayed about it?" And I always hate that answer because I'm just like, the answers are going to be most likely no. And she's always like, well, maybe you should pray about it and then you won't get so annoyed. So I love how she's able to kind of dish it out to kind of keep me in check. But she as I was relaying this to her and just telling her like how I'm just really struggling right now, she was saying, well, why don't you read Psalms? Because, I'm hearing a lot of the frustration you have, a lot of the anger you have towards God. That's okay, because David even felt like that. And so maybe it's good for you to read in Psalms and see just kind of what it's like for someone else to experience that, and just see how he went about it. And so that's been about a week or so since we had that conversation now. And so I've been trying to get into and at least read one psalm a day, that sort of thing. I've always had friends that have done this. I've had family that have done this, and I've never really done it myself. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to read at least one psalm a day and just go through it. And man, the first one stopped me dead in my tracks, because in verse 5, well, I guess I got to read the lead up to it. Otherwise 5 may not make sense. So in verse 1, Psalm 1, verse 1 says, "Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the wicked, nor stands in the way of sinners, nor sits in the seat of scoffers. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and on his law he meditates day and night." So really that verse there stopped me, because I'm like, my delight right now isn't really in the law of the Lord. I don't really have much delight right now, because I'm just like, I'm Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh. I'm like, oh no, woe was me,
Whoa.
And then it goes on his law he meditates day and night. I'm like, I haven't been doing that for a while. How in the world can I delight in the law of the Lord when I'm not even meditating? I'm barely even getting into it every day. And then it gives this result, so to speak, of what this person is like. He is like a tree planted by streams of water that yields its fruit in its season, and its leaf does not wither. In all that he does, he prospers. And that right there was kind of a gut check for me, because one, I used the word earlier that I felt like I was withering, I guess the phrase. And that's exactly it. It's because I wasn't getting into the word. I wasn't really delighting in the law of the Lord. I wasn't meditating on it day and night. And so because of that, I wasn't by a stream of water. I wasn't getting the nourishment that I needed, but then it goes on in the next verse. There's that yields its fruit in its season. And I'm like, you mean I have to be patient too with God working on me? Like he can't grow corn in spring? Like why can't he do that? I don't know if corn grows in spring. I'm not a farmer, I guess. So you have to cut me some slack here.
In Stardew Valley, it was always a fall season.
I was about to say the closest thing I've been to farming has been Stardew Valley. So you guys will have to cut me some slack. I actually know corn grows that's when you harvest it in the fall. I know, whatever. I'm rambling at this point. But it says here, its leaf does not wither. I'm like, so first of all, if I get into God's word, I'll be like a tree planted by streams of water. I'll get that nourishment. Not only that, though, I got to be patient with what God's doing in my life, because it'll bear fruit in the season, in God's time. But my leaf is not going to wither in that process leading up to it. And in all that he does, he prospers. And I'm not saying this next part to like gloat or brag or do anything, but I mean, you look at this podcast this last year, it's grown in so many different ways with social media, my Twitch stuff. It forced me to look at what I'm doing in my life and how God has been there and is making those things successful. And I don't say that from a position of, if you follow God, then he's going to bless you and give you monetary things. I'm not trying to come at it like prosperity gospel stuff, but it made me take stock of what God has really blessed me with. And I'm like, I need to stop being so, I guess, ungrateful in one regard, but also so forgetful in the other regard, and just how quick I am to forget what God is doing in my life. And so it's been good. It's been challenging. There's been times where I'll finish reading a psalm and I'll just be like, and I'll basically feel that frustration that David had in that psalm, and I'll bring out my frustrations to God and be like, I don't know why you're still allowing this to go on, to be honest with you, and just being very raw. And it's been good. It's been tough some mornings because I try to do this in the morning before I get to work, so that way I can, work on stuff. But it's been good. I think today I got into Psalm 7, I think, and so it's been good. I don't know if any of you out there have done reading a psalm a day, but I know for me it's been helpful. And so I would recommend that. But that's kind of where I'm at, just being honest with you guys. But that's where I've been at. And so we're gonna move on now. I know this is kind of an odd segue, a little bit of a jarring one. Your podcast host are talking about getting in the Bible, being depressed and stuff, and now we're going to talk about Xbox games,
which might be a reason for depression for some people.
Set up. It might be. It might be. So let's get into it, dear listeners. Again, just a quick reminder to rate and review the show on your podcast app of choice because that helps us out in a long way. Helps us out in a long way. It helps us out. Words are hard. So. We did our React episode on the PS5 showcase, and Xbox had theirs recently, and we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about some of the games that stood out to us. We're going to talk about some of our personal favorites, but we're also going to talk about maybe some questions or concerns. In Adam's case, he's going to give you some hot takes, and we're going to have some fun with it. But we'll kind of just revisit some. We're not going to go through every single game that was shown there, just because I feel like it would be too long of an episode for us to do that. And second of all, I think, in all honesty, not everything shown merits a discussion surrounding it, even if it's just a 2 to 3 minute one
at this point.
Right. So if you guys have a game that you were interested in that was shown and you want to talk about it, reach out to us on social media, Twitter, Facebook, all those places, and we can definitely discuss it there. And we'd love to know what made it one of your standout games. So let's just start here because this is how the showcase started. It started with Halo Infinite. Now, Adam, I know you're not much of a Halo fan, as longtime listeners know, but did this particular showing of Halo Infinite change your mind at all?
Okay, well, let me say this. I am not anti-Halo. I have great memories of Halo. I remember playing the original at my buddy Ferg's house. We would do the 2 rooms, with the LAN cable going from one room to the next. Halo 3, played a bunch of that online in college. Some ODST, I guess, and Reach. I played some of those. Didn't play. When did 4 come out? Was that on the 360 also?
Yeah, that would have been 2000.
I played it also. So I played all the ones on 360, basically. I think I even played some of the RTS one. So I like Halo games. Don't get me wrong. Like, I enjoy them. But I'm at the point where I heard someone say that I think it was David Tate over on the Super Best Friends Video Game Sleepover. He said essentially Destiny is a better, shinier Halo at this point. And when he said that, it totally resonated for me. I'm like, if I want to play a good Halo, I'm going to go play Destiny. I feel like that is the evolution that Halo needs, that it can't make it. I thought the Master Chief Collection is great and all, but again, it's older games that maybe you jump in there and play it for a little nostalgia, but that's not something I'm probably personally going to go back to because I don't have that deep of ties with Halo per se. Mm-hmm. And then Halo 5, the few times I played it on the Xbox One, it just feels so dated, and that's not nothing new. If you've heard me talk about Halo, I've been saying for a while, I need some sort of refresh, revamp, reimagining. And looking at the trailer, it looks like more Halo, but that's not necessarily a positive to me. I don't think this keep playing Halo, and people are saying, oh, it's open world, it's all these different things that you can do. Maybe it's it's like Destiny, you can play co-op with your friends and just kind of run around and do different things. Maybe that's cool and all, but the gameplay still seems super dated to me. And honestly, it wasn't it wasn't. I don't think it's the most exciting thing potentially coming out on Xbox. I feel like it doesn't feel like that killer app to me anymore. That's like, this is why you need to buy an Xbox One. And I've been saying it for months, for years, really since this whole generation. Give me a reason to buy an Xbox One. I'm not going to be the PC guy, so I'm not going to be the guy that gets Game Pass through there, and we'll get to Game Pass later. But give me a reason to buy an Xbox. And again, it wasn't going to ever be like the God of War revamp that we had on PlayStation 4 with this most recent God of War. Like that was it changed almost everything. It felt like with Halo, if you knew the old games, it made it better, but you could just jump right into this new God of War, and it was just like awesome. I'm not saying it was going to be like that, but I needed something that fresh to say, give me a reason to come play this game or to come buy a system. So when that didn't happen, when it just is like, oh, we're going back to our roots, I'm just kind of like, this is kind of a buzzkill. I mean, sure, it looks like more Halo. If you're wanting more of that, then maybe I'm the minority. Maybe all the Halo fans are saying you're not a true Halo fan. Again, I want to have, if I'm going to play a first-person shooter at this point, I'll go play either Destiny, and I just gave you a hard time about that, or I'll go play Doom. I'll go play some of these really well-made first-person shooters, but Halo isn't giving me something to say, hey, come play this. Come play this. It's like it's playing purely off nostalgia and not off, hey, here's a new fresh reason to come and play this game. So I don't know. Maybe, again, it's still early. Some news has come out about it. It was like a pre-build or something like that. It's not a complete build, whatever. So maybe you shouldn't have shown it. But it didn't wow me like I was hoping it would. Like I was really expecting them to show this and be like, especially with Phil Spencer, talking the talk. I was expecting this to be like mic drop, boom, here's Halo Infinite, and it's just gonna like blow our socks off. But it was, in my opinion, far from that.
Yeah. Fair enough. I'm gonna come at it a different way because I'm not gonna lie, that trailer, demo, everything about it got me pretty hyped up. I'm not gonna lie. I thought the game just looked really good. I think this is where I'll disagree and think that there's more to this Halo game than what we're seeing, and I think it definitely will be. And of course, I'm open to being wrong, but I think it will be a good system seller because when this showcase was going on, I only got to catch the part of that trailer where they crash landed the ship. Chief went out of the ship onto the Halo, and I had to go take care of something at work, so I didn't get to watch it. So I had to go back later and watch it. And so I thought, okay, you know what? I'm going to watch this, and I'm going to try and look for little details that maybe I wouldn't have caught if I were to watch this while I had it on at work or something. And I noticed that when the game paused and it went out into its map thing, which I was like, first of all, that's cool. If this is more like Destiny where you're exploring a little bit and you're kind of checking things out, I hope they give you a reason to explore those areas rather than just have it be like a nice little set piece. But I noticed in that menu, there was 3 tabs. There was your map, and then there was upgrades. And I'm like, okay, well, what is upgrades? But they never went over there. I'm like, okay, maybe there's going to be some RPG elements, or maybe you can upgrade the armor or something, or your abilities, kind of like what you can do in Gears 5 and swap out. I forgot that robot's name, but you can swap out their abilities to do different things.
Chappie?
Is it Chappie?
No, it's Chappie.
That's a movie. That'd be cool. Chappie was your robot in Gears 5. But no, so I'm like, well, okay, that made me want to ask, like, what kind of gameplay stuff is that going to unlock? And I think the other one might have been like options. Maybe I honestly can't remember. Maybe there's something different. But as I kept watching, I saw the grunts were flying at you with bombs. I'm like, did these things have jetpacks now? Because that's just really weird. But come to find out later, brutes will just pick those dudes up and throw them at you. I'm like, all right, that could get really interesting, especially if you're in enclosed spaces and they throw one of those down a hallway or something at you. It it could get really interesting. And of course, the grapple thing, I'm like, this could be really cool if they want to do platforming. I know people are like, oh, that looks like a poor man's Doom, but come on, guys, whatever. I think it'll open up some cool verticality, which is always welcome in a first-person shooter. And I think in that regard, it will reinvigorate Halo a little bit and allow them to do more with the levels, and also just help like allow them to hide skulls. I know for longtime Halo fans, myself included, our big thing was unlocking the skulls and then using those as modifiers for later runs. And so there's that. And then going into the end, I'm curious to see how the Banished from Halo Wars 2 are going to tie into this, and what that even means, because it doesn't sound like Atriox is in this one, who is the main baddie from Halo Wars 2. So it'll be interesting to see how that all ties in and kind of what's really even going on in the world. Because I know one of the main flaws of Halo 5 was its story, because they tied in all this stuff from the books and the comics that, let's be honest, hardly anyone really followed. And so that story was a very jarring experience, especially for me. And so I'm hoping that they took notes from that and they're able to bring us along on this journey and get us caught up, and we don't have to read the other books or anything like that to really understand what's going on. And so I'm super excited. I know a lot of people were complaining on the Halo subreddit, which has been a dumpster fire since the showing, of people complaining about stupid things like, oh, the shield recharging was too bright, or oh, the shield on the elites when it was doing this didn't sound right, or the guns. I'm like, it sounded fine. People are able to have their opinion, and that's fine. But I think a lot of these complaints that I'm hearing are nitpicky and a little entitled, to a pretty egregious degree. I thought the game looks good, even if it is an early build. I think it'll be interesting to see what the final product looks like later this year, and plus the fact that it's going to be on Games Pass, which we might segue into and talk about that for a second, is even better. Well,
yeah, and let me say this to be fair. Like, everything you said could very well be true, and like there's probably well, not even probably, there's a lot more for them to show us, and so they could very easily change the conversation around this game. And again, I hope they do. I hope that was just in a very small slice of what to expect. But the thing is, you have one opportunity to get first impressions.
That's true.
And they didn't really take the full advantage of that. I think what we really learned about a lot of this conference is Xbox's first, like their game studio, their main first party ones, those games are a lot further away than we think. Now, Halo's going to be a launch game. It has to be. I mean, we've talked about it has to be. But the fact that they couldn't show us that much, okay, maybe it isn't even as far as we might think it is. And I get that COVID and everything has thrown off a lot of these opportunities, but man, they had the opportunity to really show what that they're going to bring the heat this generation. And it's got to start with your top dog. It has to start with Halo. And I don't think that they sent the message as strongly as they could have. I think this isn't bad. This is more Halo, but it wasn't like I said, that mic drop moment where it was like, this is how we get back at it this generation. I think the way that they do that goes exactly what you were just kind of transitioning to. Their thing to set, their power move this next generation isn't so much, I don't feel like, on Halo. It's really on their services, and that's been their big thing this generation, especially going to the next one, is all these games that we were shown are going to be on Game Pass the day that they release. That's big time. I mean, there's no doubt that Game Pass is the best. Okay, well, let me say this. It is the best deal in gaming if you want to be digital like that. I keep thinking about it for myself, and I think, okay, how much money do I spend / lose? I don't know, invest, because I do so much buying and selling. So say I buy a game for $50 or whatever, I'm usually selling it for like 40. So I'm maybe losing $10 a game. Sometimes I'm breaking even, or I'm even making a few bucks if I buy it on sale, especially some Switch games. So I'm liking, I was thinking, say I spend $15 a month over 12 months, so 165, 170. Or wait, 180. Would I spend 180 on physical games, buying and selling them? I get there's the ease of Game Pass. There's no doubt that it's a benefit, but I don't know for me if it's still. I think if I got an Xbox, there's no doubt I would get it.
Mm-hmm.
But for a guy who kind of buys and sells like I do, it may not be the best solution even still for me. But there's no doubt that Game Pass it's the chief reason, in my opinion, to get an Xbox. It's loaded. I mean, you could buy that and you've got games. If they never release another game on Game Pass, you've got 3 years, 4 years worth of gaming of high quality games that are on there, first, second, third party, whatever. So I think that's their biggest selling point is Game Pass. And that is probably one of the main reasons why, we talked about this on pre-show. I don't think when we're talking console sales, I don't think it's going to be close this generation either. And that's not necessarily because PlayStation is just better. I do think first-party games, PlayStation is still head and shoulders better in their game studios. But I think the reason that's going to be the difference is your main number I think you want to look at with the Xbox is their subscription services. Instead of saying, okay, how many consoles have they sold? Yes, you will look at that. But I think you compare, okay, PlayStation sold 100 million this generation. How many subscription services are there for Game Pass? Because you've got how many millions of people who are subscribing to Game Pass on their PC and not buying a system. Like you're one of those people. You have no reason to buy an Xbox, but you're going to subscribe to their service. So I think that is, PlayStation will probably run away with console sales, not because it's the better system or it has the better games, but because you're going to have a majority of people or a lot of people buying Game Pass on their PC and not worrying about buying the actual console. They're still not giving us a ton of reasons, especially if you have a PC, to buy an Xbox One X or a One S. Like I'm looking into a One S or something like that so I can do it, but there's not a whole lot of reasons for people to do that. So I think that's the biggest reason that as we look at sales, next generation of consoles, PlayStation's probably going to run away again, but that doesn't mean that they've won. I think Microsoft, we've learned, is playing a different game. Right. Their game is services, some games, and they've got their first parties, and they got all these games that they showed, and we can get into that conversation here in a minute. But I think their big thing is services, and that's how they're measuring their success. It's not so much of they're almost like a software studio as much as a hardware one. So I think that was a big takeaway that I took as I'm looking at PlayStation, Xbox. PlayStation says buy the PlayStation because we got these legit first-party games that you can only play on PlayStation, maybe PC in a year or two. Xbox is saying buy our system if you don't have a PC. We've got an awesome service that you can use for it, but if you've got a PC, don't worry about it.
Yep. And a lot of that stuff I was going to say, especially, as I was watching this preview, I was like, they're not really giving me a reason to buy an Xbox, which I think is okay, both from my perspective and from theirs, because I have a PC. I've had Game Pass all summer, and I've actually, because it came free with my CPU, I'm like, even after that summer ends of the subscription, I'm going to keep that going because it's been really good to play games like Gears 5, Forza Horizon 4, jump into Sea of Thieves a little bit and realize, it's not really a game for me. But I was able to play that on Game Pass for free, essentially. Even touch on No Man's Sky a little bit and see what some of these updates are about. It's an insane service that I can't believe actually exists. But when you couple that with their xCloud, which I know they brought it up during this showcase, I just can't remember for how long. You combine that with the ability to play on Android or iOS devices or just about anywhere, it seems like. Mm-hmm. I think Xbox has realized that they want people to just play their games no matter where they are. And I think they're becoming less and less about the console and more about this service, so to speak, kind of like what you said, that just allows you to enjoy these games on all your devices, which kind of begs the question, are we going to see some of these Xbox games on PlayStation at some point, like how we've seen some of them go to the Switch?
Yeah. And it's crazy because they've got, I mean, just looking strictly at numbers, their console is supposed to be more powerful. So there's definitely going to be, I mean, again, people are going to buy it. It's going to sell,
sure,
50, 60, 70 million, maybe units, which is still a ton of units. Don't get me wrong. But as much as they're saying we've got this powerful unit, I still the overarching sound that I hear is we've got the power service. They don't have that power app. And I guess you could say maybe Game Pass is a power app. They don't have that game that says, hey, come, this is why. Like if you're PlayStation, you're thinking Spider-Man, Last of Us, Horizon, Uncharted, Persona. What'd you say?
God of War.
God of War, yeah, that's what they're saying. Come play us because we got this. Xbox is more saying, come play us because we've got all of these games for $15 a month. Yes, there's some really good games in there too, but they're not necessarily going to be first party. And again, we can talk about some of the other games that we saw. I mean, there's some other really interesting games. I think a lot of potential really, really good games. We didn't see enough of them to really make that call right now because a lot of them were CGI trailers and not really like showing gameplay. But there's a lot of potential there. But the loudest thing that I kept hearing was, coming on Game Pass, which is awesome for them because I mean they have something. I mean, PlayStation Now is getting better and better and better, but it's still not really on Game Pass level. So that's the one thing they have, the biggest thing they have that PlayStation doesn't. So they really should be pushing that because it's totally legit to be fair.
Yeah. And I think this is where we've seen, at least and when you kind of look at the two, I think Xbox has kind of understood how to market their strength, so to speak, which is why we saw Game Pass so much during this entire thing. We could really spend the entire rest of the episode talking about Game Pass if we wanted to. But I think what we ought to do is pivot to some of these other games that we were shown. Some were trailers and others were actual gameplay. And so, we kind of put it out on Twitter asking, those of you, what was your favorite thing at the Xbox Game Showcase? And the thing that I saw the most of that got mentioned was Avowed. So, Adam, I want you, here's about this. You give your thoughts on that game first, and then I'll give mine on Avowed.
Actually, you go first because I'm going to refresh. As you're talking, I'm going to refresh myself on that trailer because I know a lot of people liked it and I saw some of it, but I don't think I've seen it quite in completeness. So you open it up.
Fair enough. So for those that don't know, Avowed is a new RPG being developed by Obsidian Entertainment. They're the ones that put out the hilarious Outer Worlds game last year. And when I say hilarious, I don't mean like hilarious in like a bad sense. Like it was just really funny writing in the game. And as some people said, it did Fallout better than Fallout does, which is good because I think for the longest time, Bethesda has kind of gone unchallenged in this area of RPGs, and Obsidian is putting them on notice a little bit, giving them a little competition to make their games better to compete with these games because Outer Worlds sold really well. Yeah. But when I had to come back and watch this showcase, I heard all my friends that's all they talked about in all my group chats was Avowed this. And I'm like, okay, I really need to look out for this Avowed game. And so when I got to the trailer, I was like, okay, this looks good. This is cool. This sounds cool. Sounds like an interesting world. And then it just got to the end where your character pulls out a sword, your hand lights up with magic, and then the title screen. I'm like, that's it?
It's funny because as you're talking about that, I literally just got to that moment.
So for me, I guess it was just because it was so hyped up that I found myself disappointed after I saw it, because I wanted to see more of the game. I'm like,
Yeah.
like, show me some gameplay, show me what it looks like in action. But at the same time, the idea of Obsidian, who are coming hot off the heels of Outer Wilds and also announcing their next DLC expansion, by the way, which I will be picking up. They're going to make a game that is essentially their version of Elder Scrolls.
Yeah.
Which that has me going, okay, I couldn't get into Skyrim. I tweeted this out earlier today. It was one of my gaming confessions. I couldn't get into Skyrim, but I did enjoy Outer Worlds. And in some ways, I liked it better than Fallout. So maybe Obsidian is going to make a game that, and this is going to be blasphemy for some, I know that's going to have a heavy charge, but this might sound like heresy, is going to be better than Elder Scrolls. Might be better than Skyrim. And so that prospect has me excited. The trailer didn't really get me excited, but thinking about what Obsidian's doing in this space and their potential, that's what got me excited.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're, I don't know. You're saying, you're making some hot takes saying it could be better than Elder Scrolls, because I know some people. I've never played. I don't think I've ever played a Elder Scrolls game, so I'm speaking just craziness right now to some people. They just passed out. But I think you're right. It looks like it could be in that world. I mean, you kind of got that Doctor Strange. He does a little symbol, his hands all lit up, like about to do something crazy, time warp. But it doesn't. I think we're dreaming more than we were shown, for sure.
Right.
And that's probably the biggest thing about a lot of the trailers is we have a lot to dream on, but not a lot to really back that up. I mean,
right.
Looking at like one of the trailers that got me excited was State of Decay 3. I'm like, this looks like it could be really awesome. But that's just because we got a really cool CGI trailer. We don't really know what the gameplay or any of it's going to be like, but it looked super. I mean, it was like zombie deer. I mean, for us as having deer listeners, I got real excited about it.
Right.
If some of y'all turn into zombies, we're going to have to fight at some point. So I thought that CGI trailer looked really good. Everwild, we still don't know what this game is. Sure, it looks pretty, but we don't know what the gameplay is like. So again, we're dreaming for a lot of these things. Tell Me Why is a new Don't Nod game. That one looked really interesting. But probably the one that I got most excited for was the Grounded one, where you're like playing in a yard and everything is like blown up and you're like the size of an ant. And you're like fighting ants for stuff and just it's a survival game where you're just trying to like get through your backyard. That one it looked like maybe, if I'm remembering right, it showed a little bit of gameplay just in the trailer.
Yeah.
But they were the ones that weren't taking themselves too serious. Like, if you're waiting for the biggest game of the year, wait for Cyberpunk 2077.
Yeah.
So like they weren't taking themselves serious at all, and I loved it. That trailer was really awesome. So, I mean, we'll get into, again, we can continue. I mean, and I guess I open up, but even with Fable, like it's great to know that Fable is coming, but that game is what, 2 years away. At least, like,
yeah.
So many of their games, and again, they don't have to show all their cards, but they didn't give us any reason to think that many of them were too close. Some of them, I mean, Gunk, the Medium. I mean, the Medium's a Holiday 2020. It's like a horror game.
Yeah,
so you have some games,
yeah.
But most of them, I just felt like, what am I excited for now? I mean, I guess there's probably some degree of that you say the same thing about PlayStation, but it wasn't like PlayStation out here saying, hey, we got our next God of War coming out, we've got our next Uncharted game. They mentioned most of their upcoming stuff, I felt, but their games felt closer than Xbox's. But I mean, again, some of those I'm excited for what they could be, but we still don't really know what they are because they're just CGI trailers. So we'll see. We'll see as things, we've got another one of these things that's supposed to be coming in August, another showcase. So hopefully then we'll get some more maybe. Xbox struggled with this idea of gameplay. They talked about that the first little showcases. Hey, we're going to show this gameplay. They didn't show any really. In this one, they didn't say they were going to show gameplay, but just a bunch of CGI trailers. So I want more of that because some of the games did look interesting. It's just we're hoping more than we have. I feel like we're putting a lot of faith out there because it's things that are not seen. Faith is what, help me out here. I'm still on. Faith is believing in things not seen or something like that.
Yeah, it's belief in the things not seen, but in the things hoped for.
Yeah, that's where we're at basically with Xbox because we haven't seen a lot other than CGI trailers. Once we see what gameplay looks like, our faith will be seen and we can really believe and trust. But again, a lot of games. They were talking about we've got games and they showed a ton of games. Okay, the level of those games is still to be seen.
Yeah. And I think when you bring that up, just the fact that we're kind of manifesting our own hype at this point, right? After this, we got a lot of trailers that were very good spectacle, but now we're speculating on a lot of these things, like especially with Fable. We don't know what that game's going to be like.
Yeah.
We don't know what Avowed is going to be like. We don't know what State of Decay 3 is going to be like. Now, sure, and we don't even know what Forza Motorsport is going to be like. I mean, if you've played their games, if they've had prior games, then yeah, we're going to have an idea of what that's going to be like. But I don't know. I know people are going to get mad at us for saying something like this, but I think after I finished this showcase and seeing the games and seeing the trailers, there was a few games that stood out. The Crossfire X one looked cool, which is what Remedy's working on. Their stuff always looks really good. Had kind of like a Call of Duty feel, but ultimately I found myself going, I'm not that amped up,
Well, here's the reason I think we have that. And again, I can't help but compare PlayStation and Xbox as we look at the conferences and just general. What did we learn from this generation? PlayStation has earned our trust. The first party wise, they just do banger after banger first party. Xbox has not proven that. So in some ways, until they show it, it takes longer in many ways to earn that. Even with, again, you think of Halo, their prime one, their best one. If anything, it took a step sideways with Halo 5. It didn't give the people really what they wanted. So there's a level where Xbox has to earn that trust. And they've shown us some exciting things, but it's going to take more, for me at least, as a guy wanting to buy an Xbox and looking for that reason to do it. They didn't wow me in the way that I anticipated. Honestly, if you would have asked me beforehand, I was expecting, because of the things that were being said, again, by Phil Spencer, I was expecting this to be just a total banger of a showcase. I was I thought it was going to just like blow the wig off, just nuts. And maybe that's on me. I was expecting too much. The hype. Now, again, Phil Spencer runs his mouth a lot. And so he's built up hype that he hasn't lived up to in some ways. Again, Game Pass legit, but he runs his mouth a lot. And so he set himself up some of, we're just games. Okay. But you showed us trailers of, might as well have been for anything. You haven't showed us games. You showed us trailers. Now show us the game. And once that happens, again, he can totally change the dialogue. But as a company that has to earn it more, they've got to earn it when PlayStation is set. They've earned that trust. You can show me a CGI trailer for Horizon, and I can believe that that's going to be legit because they've proven it. And they've proven it time. Like Miles Morales, we didn't see gameplay there, but we know what Spider-Man PS4 was. So they've got my trust. Even if it's just a new skin of that with the Miles Morales story, I know I'm about to get something super awesome because they've proven it. They've earned it. Xbox hasn't earned that this generation. So to come out And again, it was, if I had to put a grade on this conference, I'd say it's like a 7. It was a solid conference, a lot of very interesting potential games. Some we've seen more for than others, so there's definitely some that we did get some gameplay for. But it wasn't, man, if they would have come out and said banger, 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 they could have really claimed, the beginning of this generation. But it was a missed opportunity, I think. I think they missed the opportunity. And if anything, in my opinion, maybe people would say, oh, he's a Sony pony. But from my perspective, they affirmed that no, PlayStation is still the place to go to if you're looking for, that's a caveat, if you're looking for story-driven games, specifically story-driven third-person action adventure, whatever you want to call it, games. There's no doubt that PlayStation is the way to go for that, because they didn't really give us a lot of those story-based games, and that's where I said it earlier. I think, again, exclusives are everything, but man, it just affirmed over and over that when it comes to the games, it's PlayStation head and shoulders above Xbox. But you could say, again, flipped on its head, when it comes to services, you could say the same thing about Xbox. So it's all about the different ways that you're looking. But I just thought it was really a missed opportunity in the end.
Yeah. And, friend of the show, Micah even wrote that on Patreon, just kind of echoing those same sentiments. And, he said some decent things to get excited about, but ultimately nothing to make him excited enough to want to go buy a new console. Just a glimpse, just standard Xbox IP, which we saw in State of Decay, Halo, Forza, and glimpses of games we already knew about. But he did say that Everwild was the game of the show for him. But, like you said, there is another showcase coming up in August, I believe. And so we'll see kind of what changes there. I did think that it was interesting how someone in the Facebook group posted this image of what Gears 5 looked like. I think it was like 3 or 4 months before the game actually launched, compared to what it looked like at launch, and just how drastically different and better it looked. And so I think we're going to see the same thing for Halo. I think we'll get another thing of Halo. It'll probably look better, and I think it's going to silence. It's not going to silence all the critics. People get upset about anything anymore online, so it's not going to make everybody happy. But I think we'll hopefully see more. But I'm in that same boat as you, man. I've got my PC. I love Game Pass. I love being able to play some of these games, but it's that thing that just kind of showed me what the biggest thing I got from this showcase was: get Game Pass. If you want to play games for a low cost, a low monthly fee, and enjoy these games. And then, hopefully we'll see more about xCloud and see that in action too. Maybe get to test it as well. But it definitely seems, I think we've arrived at a point when we're looking at the next generation and these companies are doing two completely different approaches. Like we've said earlier, Xbox is leaning heavily into the services thing. And then PlayStation is going more towards just what helped them maintain success in this current generation. I do want to mention, though, before I forget, and we move on and we don't, or we just move on, was the fact that Xbox is getting Dragon Quest XI-S, which is the definitive edition of that game. Huge get, in my opinion. And that right there gave me hope in seeing more JRPGs coming to Xbox, which I hope they do. Because, again, I still maintain that Lost Odyssey is one of the best JRPGs to ever grace a video game console. And so if we get something like that on the Xbox Series X, I will be. I
mean, they got Phantasy
happy.
Star. What is it?
Phantasy Star Online. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, again, as I was watching that, I literally thought they were about to announce a new Xenoblade Chronicles on Xbox. It looks so much like it. I mean, it was wild. It looks so much like it. So I think that's another really interesting one that I was interested in. I mean, the Tetris Effect. That trailer was really good. There was a lot of very good. Just wasn't mic drop. And really, I mean, we mentioned it in passing, But I think if they do Fable right, again, who knows what Fable? Because I've actually never played a Fable, but the more I hear people talk about it, it sounds like a game that I really want to play. That could be it. That could be the thing that if they give us the Fable that everyone seems to be hoping for, then I'm in. Like that could be the one that draws me over. Of okay, I'm going to find the Xbox One S, something, or maybe even an X or something like that. User, I will be looking for a way to play that game, and I think I'm really glad they announced it because I know a lot of people were really excited. Like that was probably the biggest announcement, like of stuff we weren't for sure was going to happen again. We knew Halo was going to be there, but probably the biggest announcement was Fable. So I'm super excited for people to get that, and I think that could be the one that says, okay, I'm tracking that to see what happens. But there's no doubt in my mind that game is a long ways away.
Yeah, for sure. But that's where we're at. All we're left with is speculation and until the next showcase. But I know for me, my highlight, and we'll end with this, some of our highlights. My highlight was Halo. I know people are divided on it, but man, oh man.
I hope you're right. I just hope you're right. I hope you're right that we just saw a piece of the pie. Show me the rest and I could be in. I could eat crow, quote unquote, eat crow. I hope I'm wrong. But from what they showed us, it wasn't that. Again, I think they had the moment. So I really do hope that you're right.
Yeah. And I do too, because I think really just after Halo 5, they need to do something to reinvigorate that series. Because I like the multiplayer of Halo 5. I really did. Loved it. But the story, I go to Halo for the story. I really do. I love the characters. I love that world. I love the lore. I love Master Chief. I mean, shoot, dude, I'll be honest and say that at the end of Halo 3, when it looked like he was dead, I cried. I was like, what the heck? You can't just kill off one of my childhood superhero things. You can't do that. But if you got the special ending, he wasn't actually dead. And so for me, there's a lot of nostalgia, and maybe that's blinding me. I'll admit that, but everything I saw, man, was reminiscent of old school Halo, and maybe that's part of their plan to use nostalgia, kind of like do what Nintendo does, use nostalgia to reel people back in and get people excited, and kind of playing it safe in that regard. But I think history has shown that when you do that, it sells well. But there comes a point where you have to innovate. And so hopefully we'll see some of those innovations. I really want to see what's under that upgrades tab in the menu. And I really want to see how they're going to make that open environment aspect worth exploring. Again, it's a lot of speculation, a lot of stuff I'm hoping comes to fruition. But man, for me, Halo was the thing that stood out to me. And I was like, dude, just give it to me. So, but what about you, man? Did any game in particular stand out to you or anything?
Yeah, like I said, I thought that Grounded trailer just looked like a lot of fun. I mean, I grew up with Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Yeah.
Did you ever see that?
I did,
Rick Moranis. When I watched that trailer, I mean, that was one of the movies I feel like we watched the most as a kid. So that just gave me all the feels and nostalgia for that movie. Eating the oatmeal cream pie as a little kid. If they have that Easter egg, I'm so down. Oh,
they got to do it. They got to do it.
Yeah, they've got to. So that was just a fun trailer. Like I said, Fable, that was a good way to finish. Just getting people excited for that. And then the State of Decay, again, that was an excellent trailer. We'll see what gameplay is, but that trailer got me hype also. So those are probably the three most memorable things of the... It was fun watching along with Steven and his daughter too. I watched them on Facebook, just kind of seeing them react together. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. In case you guys aren't in the Facebook group, one of our admins he streamed the thing and did a live react with him and his daughter. And I told him, I was like, dude, the next showcase, do this again, please. This was awesome for the group. You and your daughter are hilarious. The way that you guys banter back and forth is hilarious. And I told him, I was like, and plus your daughter's more of a gamer than you are because she's better at you than in Apex Legends. So you need to bring her along. And so if you guys aren't in the Facebook group, highly recommend you guys get in there. because if he continues to do those, they're a blast. They really, really are. I was going to say something else and I totally forgot. So I'll save it for later. But with that being said, let's get into the recos. As we're coming to the end of the episode here. And my dog is over here begging me to play with him. Adam, man, what are some things that the dear listeners should check out this week?
First of all, you can go onto our Facebook page and check out the birthday shout out that Logan gave me from Troy Baker, which was legit. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, man.
If you haven't seen it, it literally sounded like he listened to our podcast at the beginning. The first 15, 20 seconds, I'm like, I don't know all that goes into these. It's through a website called Cameo, where you can I think pay people to do birthday wishes and stuff. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know all that Logan gave him, but I was like, did Logan give him a cue to stutter, mess up? Because if he would have said words are hard, I might have lost my mind. It was so perfect. And so it was just really cool hearing him, just say happy birthday, and some of the sentiments were just really nice. So thank you, Logan, for doing that. That was super cool. Make sure you guys check that out. And it may be something, there's a ton of different people on there. Me and Hannah were looking at it afterwards. If you're familiar with Seinfeld, you can actually get the guy the No Soup for You guy to do a birthday wish. So it's awesome. There's all kinds of people on there that you can get to do them. So again, thanks, Logan. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, man. I when I was sending him the request, I did mention our podcast, so he might have gone and listened to it to get a feel.
We've now got a new. I was wondering the review that said Troy Baker on iTunes. I didn't know if it was really him, but maybe we got a new listener.
There you go. People are going to be going to iTunes and like, wait, did Troy Baker really leave a review? I will mention this because I found this when I was looking through there. For those of you that are Xbox fans, Steve Downs, the voice of Master Chief, is on there. So if you want to congratulate a friend or encourage someone or get a happy birthday shout out from the Chief himself, he is on there. So feel free to check that out, cameo.com. My reco is this game that me and my wife play that I picked it up on the Switch because I knew this would be a good fit for us because we like to play board games and things like that. And this would just be good if we go on trips after COVID is over with. And we'll have something to play on the Switch. And it's this Clubhouse Games 51 Worldwide Classics that, well, it's in the title. It has 51 classic board games from across the world that are on there. So, of course, you have your checkers, you have chess, you have Mancala, which is a game that I had never played before until I played this. But my wife thoroughly schooled me in teaching me it, but I managed to beat her a couple times the other night. So there's that on there. There's, what is it? It's Hound and the Hare, which I think comes from Europe, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong. You guys let me know. But that was a fun game.
Do they have Durak?
I have no idea. I don't think
Urak was a game it was a card game we played in Kazakhstan anyways.
That doesn't I'll have to check, but I don't recall that being on there. But I mean so Shoji's on there. I mean there's a lot of cool games on there. It is I think it's $40 on the Switch, but it's well worth it. If you have friends that, or even if it's just for those of you that are married and you're looking for something to play with your spouses, maybe your spouse isn't really all that into video games, this is a perfect kind of segue into that. And plus, this is another cool thing I found out. If you buy the game, for my situation here, I have a Switch. My wife has a Switch Lite. I bought the game on my Switch and she downloaded the demo version of it. We can still link up and play all 51 games and she doesn't have to buy it for her Switch. So that's something to think about for those of you that have families out there with multiple Switches. If you buy it on one system, I'm pretty sure you can link up to 3 other people to play via local play if they download the demo version of it. So it's pretty awesome. I'm not going to lie. We've really enjoyed our time with it. We've gotten a lot of mileage out of it. And so definitely check it out. I think it has some online play too. So if you guys want to play some Mancala online, hit me up and we'll get after it. But yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. And I'm probably forgetting stuff. But Yeah, just stay tuned. It leads into this next section. Follow us on Twitter, TRG Podcast. Follow us on Facebook. Join the Facebook group. Join our Discord server, Patreon, all those things. The links to everything will be in your show notes. But if you just go to thereformedgamers.com, that will be your one-stop shop for links to literally everything TRG related on the website. And you guys can follow us on there. But dear listeners, thank you for listening to this episode of the podcast. And until next time, be a deer, keep it locked here. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of The Reformed Gamers, the podcast all about theology and gaming. TRG is edited by Deer Ear Productions, so thank them for the buttery smooth tones in your ear. If you're looking for extra content, head on over to youtube.com/thereformedgamers. The Reformed Gamers is entirely fan-supported over on patreon.com/reformedgamers by our dear patrons. The following deer are at the producer level or higher and will forever be thanked at the end of each show, as long as their pledge comes through, or we forget to update the audio. Those people are David Matthews, Colin Gregory, and Wesley Ray. Thank you for your support on patreon.com, keeping our controllers charged, and supporting Logan in his never-ending quest to collect them all. Platinum trophies, that is. So be a deer and keep it locked here. Keep listening. We'll catch you later.